What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. The Division, guys, really was a pleasant surprise when this game first came out, even though with the first Division had some, kind of mediocre reviews and some, I would say kind of more so favorable than anything. But at the same time, it was very mixed amongst like the community and fans of Tom Clancy games. And with that being said, guys, I want to talk about what happened with the Division, a franchise that pretty much started off as, being like a very first of its kind as far as an IP is concerned. And then from there, it ended up becoming this massive game for Ubisoft. And the question now remains is, where is this franchise going now? Because it has taken a few things from other games like Watch Dogs and Ghost Recon and a couple other games. But with that being said, the Division has something special going on, obviously. So let's talk about it and let's see maybe how they can potentially make it even better in the future. And I definitely want to get some conversation going about it. So guys, as far as the reviews are concerned for the original Division game, Tom Clancy's The Division received generally favorable reviews according to review aggregator Metacritic. Ars Technica drew comparisons between The Division and Destiny, a first-person shooter with similar overall mechanics regarding items crafting and shared world elements. The game was also compared to modern, massively multiplayer online role-playing games, explaining that structurally, it all feels like it could have been ripped from Guild Wars 2 or a latter-day World of Warcraft, including that old MMO staple of being stuck in a server queue before diving into a game on launch, in combination with the quintessential Ubisoft design style of varying types of collectible and upgrade systems. The Division was criticized for lacking variety in its activities and missions, explaining that it does little to break or advance what is fast becoming the general form of the loot shooter genre. In fact, it takes very few risks at all, particularly with its enemies and encounter design. The Dark Zone was described as being harrowing, but was panned for sharing characteristics with the post-game content of Destiny, as being the only means of obtaining higher level gear that is ultimately only theoretically needed for further play in the Dark Zone, and for not introducing any major differences in gameplay mechanics like the raids of Destiny. So sure, guys, I think it goes without question that there were a lot of people stating that the Division was very familiar to other games and was somewhat different as well. I kind of compared it to other Ubisoft games and the similarities that I saw with like Ghost Recon and of course like Watch Dogs and such, and it just kind of felt like very similar to that. Now, the thing that bothered me the most personally about The Division was the fact that it was only really a multiplayer experience. It wasn't really any single-player story. Of course, they kind of taught you the ropes of this game and kind of introduced you to the world in a way. However, it really felt to me like from a multiplayer perspective, it was pretty good, but I just feel that games like this need to be a full package deal, like having single player experiences, co-op experiences, and of course a multiplayer. According to the review scores though, Metacritic, of course, on the PS4 was an 80 out of 100, Xbox One was an 80 out of 100, and PC was 79 out of 100, so not too bad. And then, of course, Game Informer gave it an 8 out of 10. You had, of course, IGN giving it a 6.7 out of 10, which is pretty good. PC Gamer, 68 out of 100. Polygon, 7 out of 10. EGM gave it the highest, which was a 9 out of 10. So with that being said, though, guys, I think that what we can kind of agree on is that The Division is certainly, this first one at least, was very, even though it kind of took elements and different references to other games, it still was able to build somewhat of a following. As far as the sales are concerned, according to Ubisoft, the game broke company records, including highest number of first-day sales, breaking the previously set by Watch Dogs in 2014 and becoming the company's best-selling game. The Division also broke the industry record for biggest first week launch for a new game franchise, generating an estimated amount of $330 million globally. The retail version of The Division was the best-selling game in its week of release in the UK and Ireland, debuting at #1 in the UK retail software sales chart. The game's launch marked the biggest video game debut in the first quarter of the year in the UK, breaking the record previously held by Sony's Gran Turismo 4. It was the third biggest launch of a Ubisoft game in the UK, behind Assassin's Creed 3 and Watch Dogs. The game has the highest week 1 sales for a new intellectual property, breaking the record held by Destiny. The game was #1 in Japan, selling over 80,000 units in its first week. The MPD Group indicated that the retail version of The Division was the best-selling game in March 2016 in the US. So look, guys, the numbers don't lie, okay? When numbers don't, like, when you look at the numbers for something, a lot can be said about a game or a movie, whatever it might be, based on the amount of times someone's, amount of people who are going to watch a movie at the box office, or how much a video game is selling as far as physical copies go, or even digital copies. And that being said, you can't really, you just can't deny that it was extremely successful for Ubisoft, which is crazy to think about when you think about all of Ubisoft's games. Assassin's Creed, you would have thought that that was probably the highest, right? Watch Dogs obviously was a new IP as well, but that was really high too. And then, of course, thinking of games like Splinter Cell and Rainbow Six and all these other games that Ubisoft owns, to think that this was a game that broke all of those company records, that's pretty wild. And a multiplayer experience at that is that definitely tells you something, right? And then even though, guys, there was going to be a film adaptation. In June 2016, it was announced that a live-action feature film adaptation of The Division is in development. Jake Gyllenhaal was cast as star in the lead role, and to co-produce the film was CEO of Ubisoft Motion Pictures, Gerard Guillemette. By August, Jessica Chastain was cast in the co-starring role of the film. In January 2017, Stefan Gagin was attached to direct, though he left the project in 2018. And then in April 2018, David Leitch signed on as director. Kelly McCormick, Gyllenhaal, Guillemette, Riva Marker, Chastain, and Kelly Carmichael will act as producers for the film. And then in June of 2019, during Ubisoft's E3 2019 presentation, the company announced that Rafe Judkins served as screenwriter. Netflix purchased the distribution rights to the film and will exclusively release the feature through its streaming service. The project is a joint production venture between 9 Stories Production, Freckle Films, 8711, and Ubisoft Motion Pictures. So look, guys, this is a game that is also going to have a film adaptation, and we haven't heard since June 2019 what's really going on. But at this point, there's a movie that's being made about this game. So there's obviously something special going on here. And then if you, of course, go to The Division 2, guys, this is another one that obviously is just a multiplayer experience, but they kind of added some pretty cool things to this one as well. And then the downloadable content, guys, they had DC Outskirts Expedition, which was episode 1. Episode 2 was Pentagon, The Last Castle, Coney Island, The Hunt, which was, of course, the 3rd episode of the downloadable content. And then the expansions, their first expansion really came out not too long ago, called Warlords of New York. And a lot of people have been saying that pretty good things about Warlords of New York. But look, guys, this is another game, of course, the second in the franchise, and so you would think that the second game obviously is going to sell a lot more, is going to do a lot better. Well, Tom Clancy's The Division 2 received generally favorable reviews from critics, according to review aggregator Metacritic. Destructoid praised the game for its tight, satisfying gameplay, summarizing its review with impressive effort with a few noticeable problems holding it back. Won't astound anyone, but is worth your time and cash. And then the sales, guys, obviously, The Division 2 was UK's best-selling game the week it was released, although its sales figures were 20% of the original game's launch week sales. So that is something that you got to take into consideration as well. In Japan, approximately 63,817 physical units for PlayStation 4 were sold during its launch week, becoming the _1 selling game of any format. The game's sales on consoles failed to meet Ubisoft's expectations, with Ubisoft citing increased competition in the game genre as a factor leading to the game's disappointing performance. Ubisoft added that the sales on PC were similar to that of the first game. So look, this game reviewed technically better than the first one. You look at Game Informer 9 out of 10, GameSpot 9 out of 10, PC Gamer 82 out of 100, Destructoid 8.5 out of 10, and then all the Metacritic scores were a little bit higher than that of the first game. And yet, it didn't have as good of launch, as far as the launch sales, and then, of course, where we're at right now, physical sales just didn't meet the expectations of Ubisoft. So, what happened? Well, here's what I think happened, guys. When you look at these two games, right, both of them, very solid additions and, to the gaming industry, in my personal opinion. Now, look. The release was March 15th of 2019. Wasn't that long ago. First game came out in 2016, so you had 3 years apart. So that seems like probably enough time in between. They obviously wanted to get another Division game made because of how well the first one did. What I think should have happened was they should have maybe spread it out a little bit further between these two games. They should have brought out a Splinter Cell. That's number one. Number two, they obviously they're working on Rainbow Six. I think that Watch Dogs Legion, when that comes out, I'm excited about that. But I think other games could have kind of filled in some of the gaps there while we were waiting for Division 2. I think with some of the bugs and things of that nature in the Division 2, I really feel that it kind of hurt the experience. And I also think having a full package would have actually helped it quite a bit as well. Having like a single-player story, obviously the multiplayer that's already there, and some co-op modes would have really helped the Division 2 experience as a whole. I think a lot of people out there, I don't think I'm alone when I say that there's other gamers out there that when you look at what you're going to spend your money on, you don't necessarily always want to spend your money on a multiplayer experience and that's all that you're going to get. A lot of people like having a chill way of kind of approaching games where you're able to just kind of sit down, go at your own pace at a single player story, go at your own pace with your friends on a co-op experience, and then you kind of get into that competitive mindset with a multiplayer experience. And so that's why I think that games like this, as far as the Division goes, is not that they're not popular, because obviously the Division was a very popular game, and the Division 2 is still very popular as well. These are two games, guys, that, it's a very, it's going to be a franchise that's probably around for a while, but I think they're going to pump the brakes, and I think that's a good thing. They did Warlords of New York, which was the first expansion. They're probably going to do other expansions, but just give it some time. Bring Splinter Cell back out. Bring, like more games to Rainbow Six and to Watch Dogs and just give it some time. Don't turn the Division into Assassin's Creed, because we see what happened with Assassin's Creed. It did well for a while and then it got so oversaturated, and we don't want to see that with the Division. I'll tell you that right now. I really want them to take their time with the Division 3 and, make it a full package kind of experience for gamers out there. Whether you're into single player, multiplayer, or, of course, co-op experiences, have all those things within this franchise. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you guys think happened to the Division, even though this is a franchise that it's not like it's all doom and gloom because the Division 2 didn't sell well or as well as, the first Division. Nonetheless, this is a franchise that shouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon, guys. But we're going to talk about how they can improve moving forward, kind of with what happened as far as the Division 2 is concerned, and how they can improve, like I said, moving forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more The Division content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Another Tom Clancy title I want to talk about, guys, that was something that was actually pretty close to my heart as a game and a franchise that I was hoping was going to continue into the future, was Tom Clancy's EndWar. Guys, EndWar was a tactical or real-time strategy tactical, game in which was on, of course, Microsoft Windows and PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it was a game, guys, that had so much hype built. I remember back when it came out, there was just a lot of hype that was being built around this game. And then really what ended up happening was, guys, it was an ultimate failure as far as like commercially, and a sequel was being made. And then, of course, that ended up not going over well, as, of course, the commercial failure that was EndWar ended up happening. We ended up never getting a sequel. But I wanted to talk about, where is EndWar 2 at this point? Is this a game that we could see a sequel of? Because what I think we need to do is we have to talk about what happened to EndWar in order to tell us whether or not we'll ever see a sequel. So let's talk about it. So guys, Tom Clancy's EndWar, as I said, was a game that was designed, of course, by Ubisoft Shanghai, and it was a game that came out, of course, in 2009 for Microsoft Windows. And here's one thing I definitely want to mention, guys, is that this was a game that originally came out in 2008, November of 2008, on the Nintendo DS, PlayStation 3, PlayStation Portable, and Xbox 360, why it came out on those and not on PC immediately with all these other platforms is beyond me, and I think that was step number one to this actually being a commercial failure, because I think that with a game like this that's a strategy game, we've seen other games try to do this as well, like Halo Wars, and there's been other games, guys, that come to consoles that are trying to be a real-time strategy game on consoles, which is a great concept, great idea, but I don't think that it should only be on an Xbox or on PlayStation and such. Those games also deserve to be on the PC and at launch, not necessarily months later, because if you wait months later, it might be too late, and in this case, it certainly was. Look, guys, this was a great, in my opinion, I thought it was absolutely an awesome idea of a game, this World War III concept. You choose between your different factions and such. Very much so an Ubisoft game, very much so a Tom Clancy game, and look, at the end of the day, there were so many really cool concepts here that were within this game. Like, for example, the voice interface. So Tom Clancy's EndWar offers the player a voice interface. Instead of controlling the game via mouse and keyboard, the player may optionally issue commands using a microphone. The voice interface is made possible by a speech recognition engine supporting at least the English language. Officials at Ubisoft Shanghai said it was also possible to control the game using only voice commands. Jeff Bacalar of CNET concurred, saying the demonstration you watched ran for 20 minutes without any perceptual faults. Hearing enemy soldiers communicate gives the player a strategic advantage to counter the enemy's attack with one of their own. Ubisoft has even created a video showing parrots commanding units using their voice. So guys, that is so sick. You want to know something? Like, Ubisoft had this with one of the Ghost Recons. I'm thinking it was Advanced Warfighter, and you had this voice interface, but it's such a cool concept, guys. Like, how has no one else really done that as far as like a big AAA title, having it where you're using, voice commands and such? It's such a cool concept in the real-time strategy genre. It's just such a bummer, guys, that this is a franchise, or really just a single game, that didn't get to coexist with other games. But it might not be all doom and gloom, guys. At the end of the day, there's always a possibility that these types of games may come back at some point or another, and I really hope it does, because this was a very unique concept. And you guys know me, I'm a huge StarCraft fan. It's one of my favorite games all time. So obviously, any type of real-time strategy game that you have that comes out is something that I'm always interested in, and this was a game, guys, that I think was very well done for what it was. It just didn't obviously meet the expectations of Ubisoft. Now, I think the marketing was incredible for this game, in my personal opinion. I think they did an incredible job marketing. It just didn't hit well. Now, as far as the reception goes, guys, okay, so EndWar received mixed to positive reviews. The Guardian gave the game a 4 out of 5. It was praised for its highly addictive solo play. The game comes into its own with the massively multiplayer online theater of war, while being docked somewhat for occasional voice recognition blip. The website GameTrailers.com gave EndWar a 9 out of 10, saying that it was console strategy done right. IGN rated EndWar as an 8 out of 10, taking marks away for the uninspired single-player campaign, but still saw it as a more than solid RTS. GameSpot's Kevin Van Ord rated the PS3 version of EndWar as a 7.5 out of 10, praising its innovative voice command mechanic and stating persistent online campaign makes matches feel meaningful, but berated it for its lack of story and simple rock, paper, scissors skirmishes. 1UP and Electronic Gaming both gave the game a C. So look, guys, was it perfect reviews? Absolutely not. Game rankings, of course, had on each of scores for each of the different consoles that it came out on: 78.13 on Xbox 360, 69 on PSP, 77 on PS3, 68 on PC, and 70 on Nintendo DS. And the Metacritic, of course, had pretty similar reviews. And look, here's the thing, is that, was it great? No. But were they terrible? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, guys, what it comes down to is the sales. A sequel to the game was confirmed to be in the early stages of development by Ubisoft's creative director Michael de Plater in an interview with Videogamer.com. A small team from Ubisoft Shanghai is in charge of the development, he said, and is concentrating on 2 areas of improvement: single-player story and depth. He could not, however, place a date as to when more information on the sequel would be released. On February 8, 2010, it was announced the development of the sequel was canceled due to the game's commercial failure. On September 10, 2013, Ubisoft announced that Ubisoft Shanghai is working on EndWar Online for Windows and OS X, a browser-based free-to-play multiplayer online battle arena game, which was released in 2014. However, it was shut down indefinitely on October 31st, 2016. So look, EndWar Online came out and, once again, just didn't really meet the expectations, obviously, of Ubisoft. Now, here's my thought, guys. There's a number of things that go through my head. Obviously, you can say that it was a failure because it didn't sell enough copies. You can say that for a real-time strategy game, it didn't do well. You can say because it was a real-time strategy game, they had to pay more money in order to make it. And maybe that, they just didn't think it was worth the investment as an RTS to continue onwards. But I don't think all is doom and gloom, guys, because look, they obviously tried something with EndWar, having the free-to-play multiplayer online battle arena. But I think at the same time, I think what they need to do is if they bring back Endgame or EndWar 2, what they need to do is bring it out on the consoles, but also bring it out on PC right off the bat, and or even make it a PC exclusive. It's hard to say, guys. I mean, games like StarCraft, you don't see StarCraft on the consoles. Now, I think it was a really cool concept, having voice commands and things of that nature, but maybe, guys, it just wasn't the right, game for that, and maybe they just needed to kind of keep it a little bit more simple and kind of get people kind of at least in the door first, and then once it has a big fan base, then they can start really kind of innovating in ways in the future games. But, there's a number of reasons, guys, why this didn't do well. I think commercially and so on and so forth is, probably just because they spent so much money on marketing. It was probably a lot of money to make the game in the first place, and they just didn't sell as well as some of their other IPs. Now, an article that was written by Jack Trumbull of Wargamer, if you suddenly won the lottery after going and buying yourself a new house and a new car and all the other necessities that come with being very rich, you would set out for the nicest restaurant in town and get the most extravagant dinner possible. You would likely eat there several times a week, having found luxury and savoring it as much as you can. But after some time, the food will lose its novelty. The filet mignon is not as exciting as the 15th time around. The lobster tail doesn't melt in your mouth quite the way it used to, and you begin to realize you've lost your taste for champagne. It is the following night that you would go to dinner, not back to the nice restaurant, but to an old comfort, some fast food. And while in terms of quality, it obviously does not come close to what you have become accustomed to sometimes, some mediocre burger you get through a drive-thru is exactly what you've been looking for. Tom Clancy EndWar is that cheap, mediocre burger. Now, Tom Clancy's Endgame is a game that was both ahead of its time, but also a relic of a bygone era, a picture of a simpler age of strategy games coming to console, shown through that Tom Clancy lens of intrigue, belligerent, and global war. The campaign revolves around a 3-way war between the US, UE, and Russia, sparked by terror attacks that point the finger at the other two factions. And the real appeal lies within these battles, commanding your army through voice commands. Holding down spacebar in battle will allow you to give orders in object form, such as Unit 1, Move to Alpha. Relatively simple stuff, even 11 years after the initial release. But as far as I know, EndWar faced and still faces zero competition in the field of games that involve shouting stuff at your digital army, and they actually did it. If it sounds gimmicky, it certainly is. But being able to direct tank columns to intercept an enemy APC group, engineers to seize an objective, and satellite to launch a kinetic missile at a target is incredibly satisfying. And yes, you read that right about the kinetic missile. EndWar teeters on that fun balance of military futurism and absurdity. So the mechanics of the game should be familiar to anyone who has played an RTS or turn-based strategy game in the last 15 years, with the rock, paper, scissors formula of tank beats APC beats helicopter beats tank. So look, guys, at the end of the day, what he's saying is that this was a game that really had so much possibility and potential there, and for it to have just been a commercial failure, it begs you to wonder what happened here. And what I'll tell you guys, another thing that very well might have happened at the end of the day, and we really didn't talk much about this, but when this game released in 2008, November 4th, 2008, you're talking, guys, you're going right into a recession at this point because of the stock market crash, of course, that ended up happening because of the housing market falling through. And this was a time period where people were probably very cautious about where they were spending their money, and EndWar just so happened to be that AAA title that a lot of people decided not to buy. But could another chance of this game coming around at some point, that being like EndWar 2 or a free EndWar game, I think it actually might do a little bit better. The beginning moments of a battle in EndWar are crucial to how the rest of the battle will turn out. This is due to several nodes called uplinks in game, but I don't like that word for this, so we're calling them nodes that lay around the map. Capturing these nodes is an objective in most battles, and every node capture gives the player more points with which they can bring in more reinforcements. Even in the other battle types, destroying enemy buildings and killing enemy units, these nodes are crucial to success. Utilizing these resources costs points from the same pool reinforcements are drawn from, forcing the player to choose carefully. And at the end of the day, guys, Endgame is vaguely reminiscent of Slytherin games in the structure of how the campaign map gameplay goes, but more abstracted. There are no buildings to recruit units from, and your army will always be at full strength. Any units that are wiped out in a battle will immediately be replaced by a rookie unit that won't be as good as whoever they are replacing. After you spend your time looking through upgrades for your units, generally things like an increased defense, longer range, or getting an active ability for one of your unit types, you are shown the campaign screen where you select one of several battlegrounds to fight at. And the game we deserved, but not the game we needed. Endgame was a pretty simple game, all things considered. Perhaps a bit too simple for PC. At the time it released, you could tell concessions were being made for the console audiences. It didn't offer a crazy revolution. The RTS and the battles are decent, but not fantastic. The voice command system is fun, but not exceptional, and lacks some functionality a good mouse and keyboard can provide. The story is fine enough of a setup, but you're not playing this game for the story. You're playing it because it's cheap, because it's got a fun gimmick, and because it doesn't have too much distracting you from what makes it good. Tom Clancy's EndWar is a fast food burger, and sometimes it's exactly what you want. So, look, at the end of the day, guys, this was a game that I believe had so much potential to be something really special moving forward into the future. And so where is Endgame 2 at this point? Well, guys, there's no indication that they're planning on making another Endgame sequel. However, if you're a big fan of this franchise, guys, you should do what I say to pretty much every community out there that wants a sequel made, is to tell the developers that you want that. If enough people are building movements around these games to get a specific game, whatever it might be, an Endgame or EndWar 2 case here, I keep on saying Endgame. I keep thinking about the Avengers. But EndWar 2, if you want to see that made, guys, you have to state that to the developers. And you got to build movements around it, right? And look, the thing about it is that you might actually be surprised at what developers will do when they see that there's a lot of people that want something specific in the community. EndWar is a game, guys, that should coexist with other games in gaming. It just should. It should be in the RTS genre. Now, should it be a PC game only? Maybe. Should it just be on consoles? Maybe. But I think that at the end of the day, if you want EndWar 2 to come out, it needs to be specific to PC. That's first and foremost. And then if it comes on consoles later on, sure. But make it specific to PC at first, because that is going to dictate a lot of, how difficult it is of a game and all of those things. And if it's got that appeal, then of course they can start moving around to maybe doing it, releasing it on consoles, making it a little bit easier on consoles, or whatever it might be, right? Having crossplay and things of that nature. Maybe making it free to play would be absolutely amazing. But let me know, guys, in the comment section below. What do you guys think happened to EndWar, and would you want to see an EndWar 2? Let me know, like I said, and for more EndWar 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. It's an Ubisoft type of show, guys, because our last topic that I want to talk about is Far Cry and Far Cry 6 and where this series could be headed and where is Ubisoft thinking about taking this franchise, because Far Cry 5, guys, I think is widely renowned as one of the best Far Cry games. It was actually my personal favorite in the entire franchise. Then you had Far Cry New Dawn, which people did enjoy but didn't garner as much attention, of course, as Far Cry 5. But with that being said, guys, I want to talk about everything we know so far about Far Cry 6. It's not a lot, but there's a lot of speculation here, lots of things that we can talk about, and I want to hear everything that you guys want to see in Far Cry 6 in the comment section below, and I'll let you guys know what I would like to see myself. So in an article, guys, that was written by Daniel Kutcher of Soma News, Somag News, in an article that was written by Daniel Kutcher of Somag News, Far Cry, which has been the signature of many developers for years, especially Ubisoft, has acquired a serious audience since 2004. The last game of the series, Far Cry New Dawn, debuted in 2019. The expectations for the production were high, but the faces of the actors did not laugh much with New Dawn. Ubisoft started working on Far Cry 6, which will be the sequel to Far Cry 5 released in 2018. Currently, there is no official statement from Far Cry publishers or developers related to Far Cry 6. Looking at the information leaked outside the company, the clearest forecast of Far Cry 6's release date is March 21st of 2021. The questions in the survey conducted by Ubisoft over Reddit were enough to raise the expectations for of the players. So the story of Far Cry 6 will take place in North Korea or another planet. Far Cry 5 had included its players in a story in the Montana countryside of the United States. Far Cry New Dawn, which is an ongoing nature, presented a post-apocalyptic world in the same region. Thanks to the successful processing of the venue, most players were very surprised to learn that this is Montana. Ubisoft conducted a survey on Reddit in early 2019 and asked where they would like the new game to go. The places offered by Ubisoft were extremely interesting and exciting. Some regions of northern Canada, another planet, post-apocalyptic world, India, Cuba, Alaska, Siberia, South American forest, Vietnam forest, Africa, Sahara Desert, Australia, North Korea, and New Zealand. We have successfully seen the post-apocalyptic world story among these options in Far Cry New Dawn game. This means that Ubisoft cares about the player's requests and makes the game arrangements accordingly. Among the options offered by Ubisoft for Far Cry 6, North Korea and another planet options are very popular. It seems likely that the new game will take place in one of these places. Look, I think Ubisoft is actually doing this just to almost guarantee what they already think their vision is. So to give you an example, guys, in my opinion, they put out this Reddit survey and they wanted to get everyone's feedback on it, but in their mind, they already knew this is what we're doing. This company, guys, knows what they're doing. They already know we're doing this or that. They just kind of want to get closure maybe, or make the community feel like they actually have a voice in as far as where it's going to be at. I don't think Ubisoft is actually stating, oh, well, 80% of people want it to be on another world, so we're going to do it on another world. I don't think that's how Ubisoft works, guys. I'm pretty sure that what they do is they already have an idea in their head and they just need some closure or some, verification that enough people want that in the community. And so that's probably what they're doing with it as far as the survey goes. Now, North Korea very well might be where they're going. It's hard to say. I kind of feel like they might do it just for the controversies around it. But at the same time, I do not think it's going to be on another planet whatsoever. But a lot of these places I think would be very interesting, guys. I mean, when I personally think of Far Cry, you're thinking about jungles and forests and things of that nature. So, like I said, a lot of those places I could totally see it being at. I don't know if I could necessarily see it on North Korea or actually on another planet. That would be quite a stretch, but hey, maybe they will. One of the most important elements that increase the enjoyment of the game is, of course, the bad characters of the game. No gamer will want a villain with no history to easily destroy or suddenly encounter him. Evil characters such as Voss Montenegro, Pagan Min, and Joseph Seed, which we encountered in the previous games of the Far Cry series, were the bad characters that the actors loved. While the bar is so high, the bad character expectation for Far Cry 6 is quite high. The bad character expected for the new game is not wanted to be seen only once and to beat it and everything is over. There is an expectation of a bad character that is in the story from the beginning of the game, where we can see the past story in detail and that we will encounter by witnessing and fighting step by step in each section until the final. So for me, when it comes to the bad character, I just want something different personally. I just, I think Pagan Min and of course, Joseph Seed and basically all the villains that they've had in this franchise up to this point, each of them has been different in their own way. Just keep making it different, and I will probably keep enjoying, because I thought Joseph Seed was my personal favorite. I know a lot of people though out there really liked some of the other characters, Pagan Min, and I think overall, guys, I would probably say that Voss was probably the most popular out of all of the bad characters, but I really enjoy Joseph Seed personally. Now, what atmosphere awaits players in Far Cry 6? As far as we've seen in the previous games of the series, there's no limit to time and space in Far Cry stories. This is also seen in the options that Ubisoft offers in its surveys, since it is predicted that a story that will take place on another planet, which is one of the places expected for the new game, will take place in a much more distant future than today. Evil characters, enemies, and weapons are expected. Likewise, North Korea, which may be one of the venues of the new game, has high expectations. Instead of a classic story, enemies such as vampires and dinosaurs in the enemy survey will face players in North Korea, and the use of weapons never seen before will strengthen the atmosphere the game will offer. We can say that gamers want more than the Montana countryside. So look, once again, it feels like a lot of people are kind of hung up on North Korea and another world. And I'm not saying, guys, that it's a terrible idea. I can't really see it personally. It just feels like so off the track for Far Cry. I feel like Far Cry, sure, it's unrealistic in many ways, but in some ways, guys, it's more grounded. It's got a very visceral story. It's got, a lot of grit, and, it's got some dark moments as well, but I just don't know if going the route of like vampires and things of that nature. I always felt like Far Cry was somewhat grounded in reality, even though there might have been segments or portions of it that were obviously a little bit far-fetched. But I just feel like they need to kind of stick with what's worked with Far Cry. If you start going way off the rails with stuff, I just don't. I think it's actually going to lose some of the fan base, in my opinion. North Korea, if you were to give me the option between North Korea or another planet, I would say go with North Korea. If you want to have like flashbacks, or your like character is like tripping on something and they like go to some other planet for like a period of like a mission or a couple missions or something, kind of like what was happening in segments of Far Cry 5, where you, of course, would be like moving around the map and something would happen, and, you would maybe be drugged or something, and then you end up, walking around some random part of Montana, or you almost felt like in different portions of the game, you're like in another world. So stuff like that I think is fine. But when you actually are on another planet, you're talking vampires, dinosaurs. I mean, come on, bro. Really? I mean, like, if you ask me, if you're going to do like dinosaurs, you go prehistoric, okay, but don't be going all out with like vampires and stuff. I want to hear what you guys think about it. If you're going to give me one of those options, give me the dinosaurs all day, every day, because we kind of saw that with Far Cry Primal. We saw, like Sabertooth and a bunch of different like other prehistoric creatures. Don't be doing vampires, all right? Like, let's just like, keep it somewhat grounded. Don't be going off the rails here on us. Multiple player options and possible system requirements. Now, co-op or multiplayer option is one of the favorite features of players in Far Cry. In previous games of the series, you could play a task with another player and complete the task together, but this task progression was seen only as progress in the first player. The biggest expectation from Far Cry 6 is that the progress of the missions completed as co-op applies to both players. Thus, you complete the tasks more easily by playing together and also enjoy the games with your friends. So, 100% agree with that. I think As I've said, guys, on multiple occasions, the big things that I want, obviously, I don't really care necessarily where the, where the setting is necessarily. I think it should be probably in like some type of rainforest or, it can, wherever it is, just have it grounded, have it somewhere here on Earth. Even if it's like kind of, even though it's not necessarily like a place like called Montana, we all realize that it is Montana. It's just named something else, right? I'm down with that as well. The other thing, though, is the big thing is having co-op features, multiplayer features, as well as a full-fledged out single-player story. Having a full package deal for Far Cry, I think, is a huge deal, guys, moving forward. It's going to keep the community coming back to the game, which is obviously what Ubisoft wants with a title like this. Continue coming back, building that community, and I think that's exactly what they're going to be trying to do. But let me know what you guys think, and what do you guys want to see in Far Cry 6? I think, guys, you kind of heard from me as far as what my thought on it is. And some of this I think is, might be legit. Some might not be. I mean, it's kind of, we're all kind of in the dark, at least at this point with Far Cry 6. We're probably still about a year or so out from maybe even hearing anything about it. Maybe we'll hear something about it later in 2020. But most likely 2021 we'll hear something about it. It'll probably come out in 2022. But like I said, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more Far Cry 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.